Today's episode is sponsored by Little Bird, the independent diamond and engagement ring consultants. The best way to buy an engagement ring is with a bird's eye view. You can find them at littlebirdtoldyou.com. I'm Eric Newton, and this is The Together Show. We all know relationships take work, but what is that work, and how do we do it? As a former divorce lawyer, I've watched thousands of couples break up firsthand. Having seen the worst in relationships, I decided to try to help couples stay together. So on this show, we talk to real couples and find out what love really looks like.
Honestly, if she were to have another friend that's a guy, at one point of a relationship, that would have been a deal breaker for me. But I honestly feel like once we got married, something definitely changed for me. I felt more of a commitment, maybe, and I felt more trust than maybe I had.
Welcome to the show, everybody. Thanks for listening. Today's episode is about keeping marriage simple. Chris and Jen, our guests today, met in an unusual way, but their marriage itself follows a structure that many would consider to be the traditional American marriage, whatever that actually means in reality. But that does not mean that their relationship goes unexamined. These two run a website that helps couples recover from breakups, and that means that they've given a lot of thought to what causes relationships to fail and, inversely, what causes them to succeed. But that, in turn, does not mean that these two have all the answers either. In our conversation, I pressed them on the issue of jealousy, and to be honest, we never do arrive at a conclusion about it. But it leads us to the insight that Chris and Jen live in their marriage. What works for these two is keeping things simple. Now, they probably wouldn't put it in those words themselves, but fundamentally that's my takeaway from this episode. Sometimes we just create too much drama for ourselves. And there's a lot of wisdom in knowing when to let that go. So with that, let's go to our interview with Chris and Jen Sider.
We got a pretty interesting story about how we met. Initially, we met through friends on Facebook. I know it's sort of the way everyone meets nowadays, but we just started talking, and it was around Christmas of 2013, I think, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so what ended up happening is somehow we were friends. We had never really communicated at all, and I think it was your mom, right? She posted some video without Jen's permission at all on Facebook. And it was a picture of her giving a present to her niece, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't even remember. So she was given this present to her niece, and it was like the sweetest thing I had ever seen. Like, you could see Lene, which is her niece, was super, super excited to get this present, and it was just like very touching and everything. And I remember literally watching the video and thinking, that's the kind of girl that I want to be with. And so just on a whim, I messaged Jen, and we just kind of took it from there. But the crazy part is I was living in Texas with my family, and she was living in Pennsylvania. So trying to figure out how to make that work was interesting, to say the least.
Well, hold on. So this was just some random video that showed up in your feed?
This was. Yeah.
That's amazing. Nobody does that.
Isn't that a crazy story?
And the craziest part about it is I remember as I was sending it, I was thinking, there's no way this will work. Like, this never works for anyone, but somehow I'm the outlier. It did work.
Okay, so now I'm curious, Jen, when you got his message, I'm surprised the message even came through, but so it did. What then? What did you make of it?
So I saw his picture and I was like, wow, he is handsome.
Yeah, that is, let me just say,
that's top up their priority for him.
But for real, I mean, you see your photo, Chris, and you're just like, yeah, that guy should probably be in Hollywood.
Right?
Well, thank you. See, I'm glad that you can't see me now, because you'd see I'm like blush red right now.
Well, it's good.
Chris is actually really down to earth. He comes off like, he has this big ego, but he's super down to earth and sweet. So
all right, you got this email from this ridiculously good-looking guy,
right?
And what did you think?
I was like so shocked, because I didn't really realize he was on my friends list until he messaged me, and I was like, oh my gosh, this guy is gorgeous. I got to talk back to him. So then we started talking back and forth through just the messenger. And we took it pretty slow because he was living in Texas and I was living in Pennsylvania. So we just talked as friends for a while, like a good month or two.
No, it was like two months, I think. We were just talking.
Yeah.
And then, eventually I pretty much know this couldn't go on, and I wanted to explore where it would go. It just couldn't stay as it was. So her parents had like a house in Florida. And so we kind of came to the conclusion that we'd like to meet in person in Florida. And so I think like a month out, we both got tickets to Florida, and that was like the biggest thing. But probably the most interesting part of this is literally about 3 weeks before we were supposed to meet for the first time in person, Jen got chicken pox. Now,
who gets chicken pox?
I know, right?
Okay, so the crazy part about this all is I literally thought she was making it up because she didn't want to meet me. I was like, oh, well, this has happened before. This is like this is the ultimate excuse. Oh, I got chicken pox. And, of course, I'm like, well, send me a picture. Like, I'm curious to see what it looks like. And she would not do it. So
wait. Was that that was because you wanted evidence?
It kind of, yeah.
He probably thought I was catfishing him or something.
Right. That's like, oh God, I fell for it.
I mean, you totally masqueraded in concern, right? I mean,
yeah. It was, there was I remember she called me up and told me about it like over the phone. And I was like, oh, that's strange, because I have had chicken pox as like a child, and it's such a strange thing to get when you're an adult, because most everyone gets chicken pox when they're like a kid, right?
Right.
So a part of me was like, well, is she making this up? Is she getting like cold feet? Because even though we hadn't met in person, it felt like we were kind of progressing pretty quickly. And so I thought, well, maybe she is getting cold feet. Like, this is such a strange situation.
Right. Yeah, no, it was definitely not a lie. And I was so embarrassed to like, he wanted a picture, and I'm like, I'm not going to send you a picture.
Of course you're not going to send a picture. Like, that's totally ridiculous. There's no way.
I'm not trying to turn him off before I even meet him in person.
So well, I mean, Chris, how did you finally believe her then?
I just took her word for it, because as time went on, you could tell she was very serious. And even despite that, she was like, yeah, I definitely want to meet you. I want to see you. And it just kind of was water under the bridge. We just kind of moved past it. It was just I think I'm a little bit more skeptical and jaded than most people because of my work. I deal with people who go through breakups all the time. So people who are deceiving each other, I read stories like that all the time. So my guard was a little bit up. Yeah. And, I think that probably played into it a little bit.
You also had your tickets to Florida, so I don't think you back out.
That's true. Yeah, I did get the tickets to Florida, and it was actually the first time I think I'd ever ridden a plane by myself.
Oh, shut up.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
It's kind of adorable.
Yeah, right.
So you're like stepping out into the world.
Oh my God. You have no idea. So the funniest part is, like I had a connecting flight in Atlanta or something. So when I got on the connecting flight from Atlanta to Florida, I was so nervous because I was, the situation in general. I was on the plane for the first time. I was meeting this beautiful woman who I really liked a lot, and I just remember I had like 3 or 4 bottled waters, and I chugged them all in the plane, like it was like a nervous habit or something.
And then you had to pee.
Oh my God, so bad. And like right as it hit me, like, oh no, I have to use the restroom. The plane is like landing, and they're like, okay, no one out of their seats.
Yeah, then you're stuck, and you probably still had cotton mouth.
Oh my God. So my first thing was like the second I got in the airport, I found the bathroom as fast as possible. And it was just such a nerve-wracking situation.
Well, you had to meet my family in the very first time as you were meeting me. So
yeah, it was probably like the best way I can describe it is like being thrown in the hornet's nest. And
that is hardcore. That really is. I mean, you're meeting the woman for the first. I mean, yeah, sure, you've had this wonderful relationship over the telephone, but that doesn't mean anything. Who knows? Maybe the chemicals aren't going to be good. Maybe you're
exactly right.
Yeah.
And then you have to meet the whole family. Were they all at the airport?
Just her mom and her. And then I remember the first time I met her dad, he was sleeping on the couch. Okay, I'm definitely going to tell him this because Jen was so nervous to tell her dad that she didn't tell him at all until I think the day of.
Yeah, I didn't tell him you were coming.
He was completely off guard.
No idea.
And I remember she told me that, like, when she met me in person, I was like, what? Like oh man, it just made my nerves so bad. I'm thinking about it. It's making my heart race right now.
How did he take it?
Oh, he was nothing but nice and welcoming. He
shocked everyone because he's usually really high strung. So I didn't tell him because I was afraid he would be really upset about it. But, I guess there was nothing he could do at that point.
Well, was Chris staying in your house with you?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, that is intense. You guys.
This is trial by fire for real.
For real. It's either going to work and be a huge success or a complete disaster.
Yeah. And I remember psyching myself up before I went. I was like, there's no way this can't work. Like, I had everything in my head planned out. Like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to say. This is how I'm going to act. But when push came to shove, none of that mattered.
Yeah,
it was just like it went out all the window. So it was truly a trial by fire.
Yeah.
Wow. So, okay. So you arrive and you're staying at her place, not in her room, obviously. Where did they put you, in a guest room or little brother's bedroom on the bunk beds or something? That would have been even better. That would have been like a movie.
Yeah, right.
I have to tell you, reliving this, it is a bizarre situation, but it's for somehow it felt normal at the time. I don't know. I guess we had been talking so long. It kind of felt natural in a weird way, but it's totally not.
Right.
I mean, it's fun to make fun of it, and laugh about it, but what the heck is normal anyway?
Yeah, it's true.
It's just whatever
true.
It is,
Yeah.
So now this was fairly recently. It was 3 years ago?
2014, right? Yeah, 2014 for sure.
You guys, that's so recent. So now...
Yeah, March 18th, 2014. That's the exact date. I have it seared in my memory because that was like, I remember at the time it was like a big deal to me to get her to be like official on Facebook because she had never done that with any guy. And I wanted to be like the one guy that got her to be tied down. So I did it. Mission accomplished.
Oh my God, Facebook. I remember it didn't even exist.
Yeah, me too.
Right?
Okay, so all right. So have I asked you guys how old you are? How old are you?
I'm turning
35 soon. She's 34 and I'm 28. So there was also an age difference thing to work through.
Up, though,
yeah, and I'll let you take the
I'll
wheel
a little
on
bit.
this.
I told my mom that he was older because I knew she wouldn't take him seriously. So I told him, and Chris is so honest. Like, he was getting like really upset because I told him, you have to tell her you're, I think said 28 or something.
Nothing ever good comes from
We kept arguing back and forth on what age he should be.
She wanted me to be older. And so I think she wanted me to be like 30.
Yeah.
And I think at the time I was 25 or something. And I remember asking a few of my friends who were women, I was like, do I look 30 years old? And none of them were like, so she was negotiating high and I was negotiating low.
You can't negotiate with age, you guys. That's the funniest thing I've ever heard. Okay. So you... Okay, so you told your mom... when did she find out then?
Oh my God, that's a story too.
It's the craziest thing. So my mom got all paranoid because we met online. We meet in a strange place. We fly across the country pretty much to meet each other. So she's all in a panic. She's like, he's probably the Craigslist killer.
Right.
I don't know who this guy is. And I'm like, Mom, come on.
He definitely looks too good not to be the Craigslist killer.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So she looked him up online and found his real age.
Yeah.
And then it freaked her out even more. She thought he was a liar.
The funniest
he was
part
a liar, right? Yeah.
The funniest part about it is how she found out my age. she had somehow gone on Google and found my like high school graduating class and then did the math from there.
This woman is a sleuth. What else did she find out about you?
Oh man, I don't even know. It was
pretty much it. I mean, but
there's not much else to find out.
I remember like tiptoeing around it too, because I was like,
you practiced for a long time.
You made me practice.
You thought you were gonna get a fake ID at one point. You were so nervous.
No, I was not gonna get a fake ID.
You must have been joking with me.
Oh my God.
All right, now let me cut to the chase about something. You guys sound, I mean, you're obviously in love and you're happy and all that stuff's good, but the way you talk about your relationship sounds like a couple of 18-year-olds.
It does.
When you met, I mean, you weren't kids.
No.
Right.
Well, maybe Chris was.
No. I'm kidding. I was a grown man.
But seriously, though, I mean, you guys are both, you're not as young as you make the story out to be. So what's the disconnect that I'm missing there?
I'm not sure.
Honestly, it was one of those type of things that just worked out. Like everything worked against it working out, but somehow it did. I think really what I remember, she was very hesitant about it being able to work. So it was kind of hard to get her to open up when I did meet her in person.
Right.
And I was trying to like reassure her, and I didn't want it to be about jobs or anything like that. But I remember she thought I was dirt poor. So she was like trying to figure out a way how it could work, because really a long distance relationship can't survive forever being long distance. Eventually the two have to come together.
Sure.
And I remember her like, I told her what I did, and she was like, okay, that's cool. But she didn't realize how much money you could make doing that and how you could be kind of self-sufficient. And so she would get all worked up a lot about how is it going to work financially and everything. And I was just kind of like, well, you don't have to worry about that. So it took a lot of convincing, I think, from my part to get her to open up. But I'm trying to think what else happened.
At that point, I was trying to get a promotion at my job,
right.
And I was so stressed about it. And I would like have these panic attacks all the time, because I thought, if I can't support us, he's not going to be able to move here. So
wow, you were already thinking about supporting him.
Yeah.
And the crazy part is, the opposite happened. It was me who ended up supporting. I mean,
I didn't get that job. I tried.
She got pregnant, she quit, and now she works with me, and we work together, and it's phenomenal. But it wasn't.
You skipped a lot of steps with that one tiny statement. She got pregnant? Where did that even fit in? We don't even have you guys married yet at this point.
Right.
Yeah, I went way ahead.
Well, but let me back up to the specific question about Jen. You're considering at that time supporting him.
Yeah.
I mean, were you, I mean, that must have been kind of shocking and disillusioning to even be considering that question at that time.
Well, I mean, we just hit it off so well. And I knew, like, that cliche saying, like, when you meet someone and they're the one.
Yeah.
I mean, I really felt that. So I was willing to take the steps to make it work. But like Chris said, it was a challenge. Like we had to figure out a way to make it work, and long distance is tough.
Yeah, I remember having a real difficult time kind of wrapping my head around why she was so worried about the finances, because in my mind it was like, well, that's not really a problem. I'm happy to move across the country for you. And I had a kind of job that made that possible. Now, someone else maybe who had a job at a specific place or at a specific business or something wouldn't be able to do that. They couldn't just leave their job and move across the country. But mine was kind of remote in the fact that I could do my job from anywhere.
And she just didn't believe that, or?
Yeah, I think she did. And I remember when I was trying to explain it all to her, like how I thought things were going to go, it was really hard for you to accept it, I think, because it almost seemed, I think, too good to be true.
Yeah. That's definitely part of it too. Like I didn't know anything about online businesses at all. So I didn't really know what was involved in that. And I just kind of figured, I don't know how that would work,
Yeah. Now, was this, Chris, when you're I think I missed a step in the story. This was your business at that time. Was it already profitable?
Yeah, it was already pretty profitable before I even had reached out to her and met her. So to me, it was just normal for my job was normal. How much I made was normal. So it was kind of strange to me, but I think it just took a while for her to wrap her head around it. And I think like she mentioned that she didn't really understand how the online business thing could work. But
and was that her misunderstanding or lack of understanding around that? Was that you probably were at the phase where miscommunications like that seemed cute?
Yeah, I remember it was like she always likes to tell the story about the first fight we had or something, right?
What?
Oh, good. I want to hear that.
What first fight?
You remember the devil horn thing?
Oh, yes. What happened exactly? I just remember that part.
Honestly, it was a long time ago, so I don't remember the exact specific details.
Oh, I know what it was.
Okay, apparently she does.
It just takes a second to click it back in. And that's what I
totally. Yeah, definitely. We were out. We went to a bar and everything, and then we were walking home on the beach, and Chris had taken off his shoes, and then we were walking back to my place, which was, I don't know if you're familiar with the area, but like A1A runs all the way up and down the East Coast, and it runs along the shoreline. So the house was on A1A, but across the street from the beach. So we had to walk across the beach to get there, but he would not put his shoes on. And it's the silliest thing. We were like fighting over this, him not putting his shoes. I'm like, put on your shoes. You're going to step on glass. But, he just wouldn't do it. And he gestured like, devil horns with his hands. And I said, what is that? The sign because you're a tourist? What are you doing? He said, no, you're the devil.
He called you the devil.
Yeah, he called me the devil. But we just started cracking up about it because it was like the funniest, silliest thing. And it was like a miscommunication altogether. And we both ended up laughing. So I think,
that's kind of how it ended. And it was, I don't know. I was just being stubborn or something. Yeah. I think to me, it was just like, I have to sit down. I don't know. I was being lazy maybe.
I don't know.
Well, that's way too touching. That's too cute. We have to find something less cute than that.
Okay. Well, it's probably later on down the road. We actually haven't had really too many massive blowouts. I don't think we've ever yelled at each other before.
I think the tougher times came when we had the baby.
The baby was definitely
for sure.
That's perfect. But before we get there, there's this other issue that's been tickling the back of my mind. So we had a caller, a listener, write in about a month ago, and she said, Eric, I love your show, but most of your guests they seem to be like Bay Area or New York or LA and all really financially successful. Mm-hmm. And I really wish that you would come and interview somebody in the South because we have funny. Some gender roles here that I think are ridiculous, and I would love you to explore those. And I said, sure, I definitely, I'd love to do that, but I haven't had a chance to get down there. So you guys are the closest thing to the South I've ever been able to put together. I guess you're kind of Southern, right? Texas and Florida.
Yeah, I mean, Texas is about as south as you get. It's interesting. Originally she's from Pennsylvania, right outside of Philadelphia. So she's north, and I am Texas. So that's about as south as you get.
Yeah.
And now I guess Florida is technically in the South. So
for sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, all right. And let's try to ask some questions around gender roles then, given that you have some experience with that. And I'm wondering if, Jen, you were living at home, right?
Yes.
Does that have anything to do with expectations around family or gender?
What do you mean?
I don't know. I mean, you're older than average to be living at home, right?
Right.
And so why? Why were you living at home?
Well, I actually was a live-in nanny all throughout college. Mm-hmm. And then I moved back home, just to kind of get myself together. And, I was hoping to buy a house at some point, and I didn't really want to waste money on, apartments or whatever. So I felt that was probably the best situation.
Okay. So, okay. But so it was just sort of a practical thing, which is, fairly common for our generation anyway.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Well, so Am I just barking up the wrong tree here? I mean, do you guys have any thoughts around gender role expectations in the South and how they play into your marriage?
Well, I mean, generally, I'm assuming you're saying like the man is the one who brings home the bread and the woman stays at home.
Or whatever it might be.
Okay, well, that's kind of the general way things happen. I don't think we've really ever worried too much about that. Jen, she wanted to work when we moved in together. She was the kind of person who wanted to work. So she would always work. And really, it wasn't until we had the baby that she just wanted to put more of her time on the baby. But I think when she said she was a live-in nanny, kids are really, really close to her heart. So it was just natural that I guess she wanted to spend more time with Lily, our daughter. And the thing about her job is she really would only get, I think it was like 6 weeks off, right? Yeah. Short-term disability, because she wasn't with that particular job for more than a year, which I think is like when they give you the full maternity leave, like 3 months. And so it was one of those situations where she didn't really want to go back, and I was making enough money. So I just said, hey, it would probably help us out more if you came to help me out, as opposed to maybe going back to your job. But she is always the first person to say, hey, if things ever get tough, I'll be happy to go back to work. So I don't think really the gender rules play too much into our relationship. Honestly, I don't really care much about it. I don't really have any kind of crazy thoughts that the man has to be the one that always has all the work. It just so happened that it worked out that way.
Eric, I also think that a lot of that has to do with the way the families, with the way you're brought up. Mm. Both of our families, like my mom worked, and I think she kind of took care of the family at some points. My dad took care of the family for a while. My mom raised us when we were little, but then she ended up taking over. She went back to college, got her degree, and then she kind of was the breadwinner for a while too. So my parents took turns with that for a while. And I think with Chris, his mom is very successful and his dad is too. So, I mean, they have both, his parents were working growing up.
Yeah. And in fact, my mom still works.
Yeah.
She's,
so does mine.
Yeah. So it's interesting. My dad, I think he retired, but he does stocks now. So he spends most of his time doing that and he's happy with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I grew up seeing both my parents working. And Jen, she was always the first one who didn't want any help from me financially. Even when we were dating, she wanted to pay for everything herself. She even like offered to split rent with me at one point, which to me was insane. I was like, hey, look, we're in this together. I'd be happy to cover it. Just save your money and, buy groceries or something like that. So I've been pretty supportive of her. I don't think I've ever really said, hey, you got to stay home.
Well, I have so many more questions, but this is a good time to take a break. So if you're just joining and listening to the Together podcast, the show about what's really going on in relationships, and my guests are Chris and Jen, and we'll be right back after a really short break. Today's episode is sponsored by Little Bird, the independent diamond and engagement ring experts. If you're getting married, the truth is that your engagement ring is likely to be one of the more expensive purchases that you ever make. And it's a tough one to make. How do you choose? Where do you go for reliable information about diamonds? Do you even want a diamond? And how do you keep from getting ripped off? Now, you can probably get up to speed on all of these issues by yourself because there is an immense amount of information on the internet. But that takes time, and time is valuable. And that's where Little Bird comes in. I vetted Danielle, the owner, myself, and I can tell you that not only is she good people, she really knows her stuff. Little Bird takes you through a process that helps you to find a ring that matches your personality and has lasting impact. They charge a flat fee for their services, and the odds are you're going to save more on the ring by working with them than they charge in the first place. So give Little Bird a call for a free consult. There's no harm, and you're going to learn a ton. And you can find their website at littlebirdtoldyou.com. And remember, the best way to buy an engagement ring is with a bird's eye view. You two are so new. I mean, really, you're so fresh still. But you are doing something that's really lovely from the outside. It looks like there's something that's operating in your relationship that's causing you to let go of whatever frustrations might manifest. And are you consciously aware of what that might be?
I'm not exactly sure, but I could say it has to do with my bad memory. I mean, that's horrible to say, but literally, like, if he does something that annoys me, I really forget about it. And then we also, like, we communicate really well and we compromise. So I think those things are definitely what gets us through.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say the compromise thing is probably a big component of why we work.
Well, that's also $1 million question. I mean, everybody talks about this word compromise, but what actually is that? What is compromise anyway?
Yeah, I think when we're mad at each other or something happens, instead of, screaming at each other, we just sit down and talk about it instead of like leading with emotions. I know, like, Chris gets a little heated more than me sometimes, and he'll have to like blow off steam. And I know that about him. So like, he'll go off and do his thing for a little bit, but then he'll come back and be like, I'm sorry. That's how our fights go. So I think if you know the other person really, really well and know what they need during a fight, you can almost like overcome fights a little bit easier.
Yeah. And the interesting thing is so I think when I get angry about something, I'm probably the first to let you know about it. So yeah. I'm open about it. Jen is not. She's the kind of person who will not say anything about it, but you can just tell by picking up these cues from her body language or just the silence of when you're talking and she gives you a one-word answer. You can kind of tell, okay, something's wrong. And usually in the back of my mind, I have an idea of what it could potentially be. I think off the top of my head, the last one was the shots with the baby. Yeah. She's concerned about the baby shots, and she kind of got really quiet, and you can tell when something's bugging her. And sometimes I remember there was one case where I was playing tennis outside, and we had at our old apartment, we had a tennis court like right outside, and I'm a big tennis player. And so I was playing tennis and I was just practicing, and it happened to be a girls' high school team came and practiced on the court next to me. And then they saw that I was actually pretty good. So the coach came over and said, hey, would you mind hitting with a few of my players? And I said, oh yeah, sure. So I was hitting with the players, and Jen, she came home and saw that, and she got a little jealous, I suppose, but she didn't tell me about it. She was very respectful in a way, but very quiet. And so I kind of had a feeling I knew what it was about, but I wanted her to say it to me before I really kind of pried into it. So I just kept asking her questions like, hey, what's wrong? And she would say, of course, nothing. And then that went on for a while, but finally she fessed up. And then I guess this is where the compromise comes in. I said, okay, well, the next time that happens, I will never do it again. And I didn't do it again. So that was kind of, we have compromises like that, I suppose. I know that's kind of a really nitpicky, small scale one.
That's an interesting one. Now, I understand that there wasn't a lot of attachment on your end to hitting balls with high school girls. It's not like you were getting a huge amount of value out of it.
No.
On the other hand, it was innocuous, right? I mean, it's not as if you were getting their phone numbers and taking them behind the bushes or something.
No. It was, for me, it was just, oh, hey, look, I'll get some better practice, because it's always better to practice with another human being than it is just to hit balls by yourself or hit serves or something.
So the compromise was you just agreed not to do that anymore?
Yeah, so I knew it was a type of behavior, just hitting with another woman, that would maybe make her a little bit jealous. And I knew that she also liked to hit practice with me as well. And so I think maybe where the issue came in is she was under the assumption that she was going to hit with me. And I was definitely still wanted that to happen. It just so happened that these high school girls crossed my path and wanted me to hit with them. So she wasn't home. So I said, oh, okay, I'll just do that. It'll kill some time.
Hey, Jen, how did you feel about that compromise?
I mean, I thought it was really great what he did. I didn't know how he would react to it, so I was kind of quiet about it. But I was really upset because when I came home, we were supposed to hit together. And I'm like, I come home and he's hitting with all these girls, and I'm like, oh, okay, so I guess we're not hitting. You're just going to hit with these other girls instead. So
that changes the story that you actually had a schedule. You were supposed to be.
Yeah, but the thing is, to me, it was just, she wasn't home, so I was just like, okay, well, this will kill some time. I still had every intention of hitting with her, and we did after, the high school girls left and everything. We hit, like, immediately when I saw her, I stopped it and we hit a little bit.
Well,
but
what I want to know, Jen, is what part of that is the part that matters in terms of his agreement not to do it anymore? Is it the part where he agreed that he agreed not to hit balls with high school girls, or was it that he agreed not to violate your existing schedule?
I would say both. I mean, I really felt that, like, if we have plans, like, he should stick to them. But I could understand, like, if the courts were all taken up and then these girls asked him to hit, I mean, it was just the situation. I just came in at the wrong time. Do you know what I mean?
So if it was, if tomorrow a group of high school girls was there and they needed somebody to hit to them, but you were busy with something else and there was no chance of you playing ball, would that violate the rule? Would you not want him to do that?
I wouldn't like it, but I mean,
but it would be.
I probably wouldn't. I wouldn't even know, honestly, because I'm here. But
it would be okay if it was high school boys, right?
Yeah.
So it's just the possible kind of sexual whatever.
Like, I think it comes down to also with, our line of work. Like, now I'm answering a lot of comments and I hear a lot of stories. So I think some of that plays into it. I guess anybody can say that. Everybody's had past issues, but I think that does play into it.
And, that's the thing I think she does really well. And it's something that I like is whenever she's jealous about something, she gets quiet. But when I think she knows how to play off of me. So she knows that I'll go fishing. Like, when I can pick up those cues and tell, oh, something's wrong, I'll go fishing to try to figure out, okay, what's wrong. And then she will not hold anything back once I finally kind of catch the fish, so to speak. Yeah. And so she brings the jealousy out and gets it out on the table once I have kind of fished for it. And I always like that because I know some people are kind of passive aggressive and they don't ever talk about how they're feeling. And so she'll be really specific after I kind of have to prod her a little bit for it, of course. But then I can kind of understand. I definitely, I felt bad. And I remember with that specific jealousy situation, I remember when I saw her coming, I was thinking, oh no, this is not going to end well.
Right.
Because I just was thinking, okay, well, they'll probably be gone by the time she gets here. I'll get some practice in. No one's hurt. But she came in, like she said, at the wrong time. And I still had every intention of hitting with her, of course. But by then, there's nothing you can do, So my way of compromising or making sure that she never felt that way again, because this is someone, I think we were engaged at the time.
Yeah. Maybe.
So this was someone at that point that I was ready to spend the rest of my life with. There's nothing I was going to do to jeopardize that. So making that decision.
So we're talking on two different planes about this, and both of them are valuable. One is the sort of practical approach that you guys took and how you dealt with the issue. And that you never want to trigger your partner's jealousy, and here's how you guys decided to avoid that, and that I totally get and I love it. And the other level is jealousy. I'm so curious about it. I'm curious about like, where does it come from and why is it so different for everybody? On this show I've interviewed probably 10 or 12 polyamorous couples. And they have a completely different relationship to jealousy than most people. As an example of one end of the spectrum, right? Like, they're sort of, you could think of them as the extreme end of the open to jealousy spectrum,
right?
Because they use jealousy as a tool to explore their feelings of fear in life. And then the other opposite end of the spectrum is, maybe my aunt and uncle, who I interviewed a couple weeks ago. Who are strong Catholics from the 60s, and they would, the kinds of things that normal couples do these days, just going out to dinner, would be anathema to them, and so everybody falls somewhere on the spectrum. And you guys, and so for Jen, you've got this. I'm trying to understand what it is. How would you define what is okay and what isn't okay for Chris with regards to his interaction with women?
I mean, I don't know. I haven't really thought it through. It's not like, I didn't really come up with the compromise. It was kind of Chris that came up with that idea. He said, would this make you feel better? I'm like, well, yeah, I guess so. But I think initially, I get quiet because then I'm thinking, am I overreacting?
Yeah.
And then he came up with that compromise and I thought, well, yeah, I think that could work.
And I'm not saying you were or weren't overreacting. I'm just curious, like, what is the place where people land in their relationship? And well, let me bring another point in, which is that you say that because of your career, which we haven't talked a ton about, but you guys run a website where people ask for advice about their breakups. So you're seeing a lot of breakups that I guess you're suggesting a lot of them have to do with infidelity or jealousy or cheating and that kind of thing.
Oh, yeah.
So
I would say a good percentage. Yeah. For sure.
So you're a little more sensitive to it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But do you have a theoretical framework for yourself around what's appropriate with people of the opposite gender and what's not? I mean, aside from that compromise. What is it? How does it work for you guys?
Well,
well, the interesting thing is I think out of all the times that we've dealt with jealousy in our relationship, it's probably been more me to her because she's very, very beautiful. And so she gets a lot of attention from the opposite sex. And so honestly, I think like what is considered cheating, we've never really had the conversation. It's just kind of a mutual respect and a mutual understanding of, I guess the best way to do this is to give you like examples of situations. Like, for example, if I all of a sudden caught her holding hands with a guy, I would probably consider that to be a violation of the framework. Mm-hmm. Same would apply to me, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah.
So I think that would probably be like the lightest thing.
What about like a friendship?
A friendship, that's the interesting thing. Neither of us really have many great friends that are of the opposite sex.
Could happen, though. You guys have a whole lifetime to do.
That's true. That's very true. It's interesting. The one thing I will say that I noticed that kind of attracted me even more to her was the fact that when we started dating, she almost became exclusively towards me. So any of her guy friends, she never like hung out with or anything. So she removed any kind of jealousy aspect that I would have, because I think really where the jealousy comes into play is before, when we were dating and we were in a long distance relationship, because you always wonder, well, what is the other person up to? She was always pretty good about updating me if she was ever going to be like with someone else or someone of the opposite sex. And I think a certain amount of trust has to come into play at that point. And I was always really good about updating her and communicating her, and there really wasn't much to worry about. We were pretty crazy about each other.
Well, so, I mean, that all makes sense. I mean, of course, that's how you were, and those are sort of no-brainer, obvious things to do, particularly at that phase. Mm-hmm. But it's true, you guys are going to be together for many, many years.
Very true.
And during that phase, during a lifetime, each of you is going to inevitably, because you are human beings, you're going to be attracted to other people. And, in your relationship, it sounds like you're not going to act on that. That's okay.
Right.
Right. But the attraction is going to happen. It's just going to. And there are going to be friendships. I mean, you're not going to be able to live a cloistered life where you're not friends with people of the opposite gender. They're going to arise.
Yeah.
And maybe you will be attracted to the friend because you're a human, or maybe you won't, because that also sometimes happens. But I mean, are you going to say no friendships with opposite genders? I mean, you could do that, but
well, I think that we definitely have friendships with other people, but they're usually other couples. So it's not like, we're hanging out with these people that are single that could possibly develop into something more. We have a lot of friends that are couples that are either just dating or, more serious, engaged or married with, a kid. So I think that, we kind of protect ourselves that way.
And does it seem important to have protection in that way? Protection's a funny word, but
yeah, I would think so. I mean, like we said before, with the amount of people that break up, and because you
divorce
dealt
lawyer,
with this before.
Right. He's dealt with the worst kind too, probably.
Yeah, I'm sure about that. So I think a lot of it comes down to cheating,
Yeah.
I think
or mistrust
I think
in general.
cheating definitely has a tie into every single kind of jealous feeling, because obviously your mind goes to the worst thing that could happen, and that's cheating.
Yeah.
So,
well, for you, I mean, if you say so, that's kind of what I'm getting at.
True.
Like, that's not.
Yeah, that's true.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I would agree with that for sure. It's something honestly that we've really never talked about, because we've probably never had like an issue arise. I know that sounds weird since we're married and everything, but I honestly feel like there's just this mutual understanding. Honestly, if she were to have another friend that's a guy, I probably, I'm going to be 100% honest with you, at one point of a relationship that would have been a deal breaker for me.
Yeah.
And I know that sounds wrong in today's day and age.
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that at all.
But I honestly feel like once we got married, something definitely changed for me. I felt more of a commitment maybe, and I felt more trust than maybe I had, because just kind of going back in time, personally, I always had more of the emotional issues because I moved across the country to live with her in Pennsylvania. So I didn't know anyone in Pennsylvania. The only really person I knew was her. And so to me, it was like, well, I'm taking the big risk here. And if something were to go wrong, where would that leave me? And so I became very insecure about kind of things like this. And, but it's weird, when we got married, it's not, I'm sure it's still present. I mean, there's been cases where she's shown me some random guys on Facebook hitting on her, and it still makes me, upset or jealous a little bit. I maybe try to play it off like it doesn't, but it does. I'm not going to lie. And I think that's a normal thing, but
why lie?
Yeah. But there's, I feel like when we got married, there's just kind of more of a trust aspect there. There's more of a commitment aspect. So I think she probably had more male friendships than I had female friendships, because she worked with a lot of people and she would make friends with some of the guys, because it's normal to want to network in your business. She worked in a sales position job, so she would have to go meet a lot of people, and it never really bothered me. But I guess I can honestly tell you that I don't know how I would react 100%, because she doesn't really have any close male friends. So I know I kind of just talked around in a circle.
Well, you kind of did. I mean, the thing that my point in asking the question, well, I'm just curious for one darn thing, but if I have a point, it's that you guys have a set of rules. You clearly have a set of rules, a standard by which you're living. And I'm just trying to tease out what it is, and put it into words. Okay. Because everybody's got a different one. And
yeah. Honestly, I think ours is probably right now the way it is if I developed a female friend, I honestly don't think she would be okay with it. And I would not be probably okay if she developed a male friend. So that's kind of the framework regarding jealousy. At least that's what I think, but I can't say 100% because it's not happened.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of trust between us, and we are so tied to each other that we've never really had to explore that. But I do take your point that, we're human beings, and you can't just go your whole life and not think someone else is attractive. It's a normal thing to feel.
And you can't not feel jealousy. I mean, you're going to feel jealousy.
Absolutely. I can definitely still feel jealousy. It has been less frequent, I think, once we got married. Once we were long distance, though, I was a mess.
That's kind of cute. Well, all right. Now my follow-on question to that is, do you have the room in your relationship to be able to talk about attraction for other humans? Because
I think so.
You do? Okay, yeah. Tell me more, because it's edgy to do that. It's really edgy, but on the other hand, it's like pure honesty.
Right. Well, I think both of us can, if he thinks somebody's attractive, I'm probably the first one to tell him, look at her, she's really good looking,
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I think that we both know when somebody else is attractive. I mean, there's no denying it, So yeah, we can definitely talk about that.
I mean, as far as brutal honesty, I honestly would be probably a little scared to bring it up because I just wouldn't want to hurt her. And I think that's probably everyone else who feels the way I do probably falls into the same camp. They're just probably afraid of upsetting their significant other.
Totally. I'm in that camp, but I think about it all the time. Like I think about that fact all the time, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. You know, I probably would bring it up. It would probably take me some time to build up my courage, though. That's probably the most honest answer I can give you.
Yeah.
You mean like if it were a reoccurring thing and you kept...
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, because there's like, it's, I mean, I've already said it, so I don't want to beat the horse too much, but because we're human, we're going to have these attractions. They're just going to come and go. And some of them are going to be, you know, that passing person on the street. Mm-hmm. You know, that's sort of innocuous. And some of them are going to be, you know, this human being that I interact with every day. I'm finding myself really attracted to. And the more I resist it, the more it builds. This isn't happening in my life right now, but this is a thing that you, just to be clear, in case my lady...
Let's hope your fiance is not listening.
But I mean, that's just, you know, that's sort of like your standard movie script. And that's just sort of that's a story that we all as human beings are familiar with. The more you resist something, the more it grows. And if you're worried about it, it tends to become a thing. And there's this really lovely way of being able to turn to your partner, your life partner, you know, the person that you've committed to and built a life with, and just say an honest thing. You know, I'm experiencing this. It doesn't mean anything about us, but I'm experiencing it. And I feel like I should tell you, and let's see what happens. And, you know, some couples use that energy for their own romantic life, right? Or sex lives, and others, and frankly, others bury it. And I guess I'm getting on my soapbox now to say, I think the burying of it is never healthy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I did this interview with a girl called, her name was Veronica Grant. She had really something interesting to say. She's of the mind that, you know, it's better out than in. And I think I would have to agree with that. You know, it is better to probably express those feelings rather than bottle them up, because probably if you bottle them up, they'll just grow more and more and more until they probably explode. And eventually you act on something. Mm-hmm. And that's probably not healthy for a relationship at all. I think on the point, it's an interesting dynamic that we have now because we work together. So really there's no obvious temptation. So probably the only type of temptation I can see is if we made some single friends or something, which neither of us have at this point, but I'm sure at some point we will have single friends where this potentially could happen. But you know, we're always pretty good.
I just thought of an example. Jen, tell me what would happen in this scenario. Let's say Chris gets invited to the bachelor party. And because it's a bachelor party, they're definitely going to go to a strip club.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's fine. And let's say at the strip club, he gets a lap dance. He didn't pay for it. His buddy paid for it. But nonetheless, he gets a lap dance.
I don't think I would like it, but I mean,
I'm going to stop her. There's no way she'd be okay with that. I know it. Just looking at her face right now, it's just no way.
Yeah, I'm at a disadvantage because I can't see your guys' face.
Was I giving you the look like you better not do that?
Yes, she was giving me that exact look.
That's so funny.
Were you just trying to be nice and say that it would be kind of okay?
That's exactly what she was doing.
Well, no, I didn't have time to process it, I guess. But no, I wouldn't. I definitely know if he went to a strip club with his guy friends for like a bachelor party, that would be totally fine.
Yeah, you know, it was really, really funny. When we first met, my buddy. So when Jen and I first met, my buddy was like in Mexico or Cabo San Lucas or something during spring break. And so he was sending me all these crazy pictures through text, like, look where I am. Right. And so I was showing them to Jen. I was like, yeah, my buddy, he's crazy.
He was trying to brag.
And so she decided, okay, well, let's try to one up him. And we were in Daytona Beach during like this thing called Bike Week, which is like a big thing where all the bikers come. So she took me to like all the craziest places trying to take pictures, like trying to one up him. And to me, it was the craziest thing because, you know, I thought like there's no way that a girl would ever walk into like a place like this where women are stripping or anything. But she's the one who took me there. I was like, what the hell is this? Excuse me.
I think your friend was jealous too.
Yeah, he was jealous.
Good. Score 1.
Yeah, right.
Now, I like to end shows with a quick game of this or that.
Okay.
You know how that works?
Jen might need an explanation.
So
and by Jen, I mean me.
That was so good. You're going to be doing that the rest of your life. I love it. That's great. Okay. So I'm going to say a this or that, and you guys are going to say which one you prefer.
Okay.
So like the easy thing is chocolate or peanut butter.
Chocolate.
Chocolate, yeah.
Right, that one's easy. Okay.
That was
That
easy.
one's easy. Would you?
I like this game.
Would you rather? Okay, now I'm going to go dark. Would you rather be blind or deaf?
Deaf.
Blind or deaf? I would rather be deaf. Yeah.
I'd rather be deaf. Why? Because then you could see each other.
Because I feel like,
That's so cute.
okay, well, yeah, that's the cue. But my answer's
He was
gonna
not thinking that at all.
gonna sound so unromantic because when you're watching TV, you can always put the subtitles on. So
At least you have your entertainment.
Do you see why I love him?
Practical.
Makes me laugh all the time.
Poor dude. Okay. All right. Batman or Superman?
Ooh.
damn,
tough.
this is a real.
I'm going to go with Batman, but I love them both.
I'm gonna go with Batman because he's a human and he still like contends with like gods. So Batman.
Yes.
Plus, he's a billionaire. You can't lose being a billionaire.
You can't knock that. Okay, good. That's
So
segue
much
to
Donald
my next question, which is enlightenment or $1 billion?
Oh, that was a good segue.
Gosh. That is so hard.
You go first. I got to think a little bit.
$1 billion.
Okay, I'll go first.
Okay.
I'll take $1 billion and I'll tell you why. Because if you have $1 billion, you can reach enlightenment. You'll be happy. Your stress will be like, you won't have any stress. You won't have any money problems. You can work on the enlightenment thing. So
I guess I'll have to go with that too. Yeah, we'll both be greedy.
That's so funny. I was with you until you said you're not going to have any stress.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
You can still, but I'm telling you, money helps.
yeah, money does help a lot, but yeah, point taken.
Yeah.
I'll still take $1 billion though.
Okay.
He's not changing his answer.
I mean, it's going to be fun to have the yacht. You can't deny that. Okay. Last question. If you had to either live for infinity, meaning really for real infinity, or die in the next 5 minutes, which would it be?
Question. Even if the earth exploded, would you still live?
Yes.
Okay, I'll pick infinity.
You'll pick infinity?
Yeah, I want to live forever.
Wait, so if I pick infinity, we would live forever together? Or would it be like,
I guess we would live together forever.
I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, that's
you know,
true.
if I'm like the magical genie, I don't know.
so my answer is if we can live together forever, then I'd pick infinity. But if not, probably the 5 minutes.
But you don't know the answer to that. It's going to be uncertain. So you have to pick in the face of uncertainty.
Oh, infinity.
I love it.
I'm going to try to find Chris.
Well, I mean, you
That'd be a
look
great
at it.
quest.
In 5 minutes, what can you really do? Like,
Yeah.
look at it logically. What can you really do in 5 minutes?
Yeah, but you don't know what afterlife is like.
If there is one,
Oh, jeez. That's a whole nother topic.
I guess you got a point.
Well, you know, what you guys should do is create the what if plan, you know,
that's
because
true. I like
like if
that.
you're going to live
Yeah.
forever, but you get separated, where are you going to meet?
Yeah. That's a good idea.
Mars is a good place.
Mars. I was
Yeah.
thinking Paris, but you got it.
Well,
I'm so glad you asked this question.
we're really diving deep.
Yeah,
here.
you guys have to. Well, I'm sure you probably have a zombie apocalypse plan, and
Oh, Chris has that for sure.
Yeah, Walking Dead. You
you've
know.
got to have that. So if
Yeah,
you've got that,
yeah.
then you've got to have the if we live for infinity and the Earth blows up plan.
Very true.
You know. So all right, glad
I bet I'm
handled
probably
that.
the first person to ever ask you if the Earth would blow up.
Yeah,
Probably.
Well, where people usually go is, what about the sun going supernova or the heat death?
Oh,
Because I mean, I don't. You know, the heat death of the universe has been hypothesized. So infinity will extend beyond that.
Might want to go to a different universe then.
Isn't it so exciting to even imagine that?
Yeah, it's fun.
All right, you guys.
We should have done the whole interview with just this game.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And then what happens when you're fighting about that? All right, guys. Well, this has been really lovely. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Well, that's it for our interview with Chris and Jen, folks. Thanks for listening. If you'd like to learn more about Chris and Jen, you can find their website at exboyfriendrecovery.com, and I'll put a link to that in our show notes. And don't forget to check out our sponsors for today's episode, Little Bird, the independent diamond and engagement ring experts. The best way to buy an engagement ring is with a bird's eye view. You can find them at littlebirdtoldyou.com. If you liked what you heard on our show, please subscribe to us on iTunes. It makes a huge difference for our ratings when you do that, and we really appreciate the boost. So thank you. If you have any questions or comments, or if you'd like to be on the show, please reach out via one of our platforms. You can find our website at www.together.guide, and there you can find our magazine articles about relationships as well, in case you didn't know that those exist. Our Facebook page is facebook.com/togethershow. Twitter and Instagram are both at together_show, or you can email me at host@together.guide. That's all for today, folks. See you next Monday.